Have you ever wondered why you sometimes feel like a different person? Or why your thoughts don't always behave the way you want them to? Behind such experiences is a powerful brain region and a specific set of hormones working together in ways we are only beginning to understand. Good day. My name is Nima. I'm a neuroscience student at Concordia University, and today I'm going to tell you about how we eavesdrop on an interesting conversation between our body and the brain. Now, I want you to think about the last time you made a tough choice or resisted an impulse. Maybe sticking to your diet instead of indulging in a delicious ice cream, or biting your tongue in a tense conversation. The part of your brain that helps you with that lies right behind your forehead and is called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is like the brain's CEO. It helps coordinate different brain functions so you can resist impulses, make thoughtful choices, recall past events, or imagine future possibilities. In many ways, the prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that makes us most human. The prefrontal cortex is also incredibly adaptable. It grows and changes in response to what you learn and experience throughout life. In a way, it's like your mental fingerprint, completely unique to you. Anything that can alter the structure or function of the prefrontal cortex can reshape the way you think, feel, or behave. A good example here would be our reproductive hormones, special chemical messengers produced in our body to regulate reproduction, though their functions go far beyond that. In fact, reproductive hormones have been shown to regulate our emotions and cognitive ability. In the female body, the two main reproductive hormones are estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone levels in the body fluctuate across different phases of the menstrual cycle. If you ever notice that your mind feels sharper at certain times of the month, and you can remember small details with ease, it might be estrogen at work, acting like a natural cognitive enhancer. Around ovulation, when the chances of pregnancy are highest, estrogen levels also go up, increasing sexual desires and sensitivity to social cues. In a way, it's as if your mind is driving you towards romance without you even noticing it when your biology says it's the right time. On the other hand, some women might go through an emotional roller coaster during the days before their period and feel more irritable, anxious, or down. That could be a side effect of a drop in progesterone levels. Now, how are these examples related to the prefrontal cortex that we just discussed? To answer that, studies suggest that estrogen and progesterone could be producing their mind-altering powers by changing the activity of the prefrontal cortex. What do I mean by activity? I'll put it this way. Think of the brain as a large network made up of billions of cells. Each of these cells is able to generate small electrical pulses, like tiny sparks. These pulses can then travel along the cell and reach other cells across the brain. This way, each cell is able to communicate with many others in a common language, electricity. When I say a change in brain activity, I'm referring to any changes in the brain's electrical activity. With the right equipment, we can even pick up and record this electricity from over the scalp. However, what we pick up from the skin surface is only the tip of the iceberg. It is a mere trace of all the electricity produced by numerous brain regions across the whole brain. In order to monitor the activity of a specific brain area, however, we might need to take a peek inside the skull. Now, how do we do that? In a perfect world, we could cut open the skull, take the brain out, and record directly from the areas we are interested in. Luckily for us, we're living in that world. It might not be perfect, but it's still great, mostly because we are able to take the brain out of the skull, keep it alive for over half a dozen hours, and record its activity. All we need to do is break the skull open, extract the brain quickly and carefully, and then put it in special solutions that contain everything the brain needs to survive and function. In fact, that's what I do every day in our lab. Shocking, right? Well, that might be because I haven't yet mentioned that we don't conduct such experiments on people, of course. We use animal models, most often rats, and we do everything as humanely as possible. All of our rats live a good life. They've got 5-star cages. And they're completely anesthetized during the experiments. A rat's brain is surprisingly similar to ours, and using animal models allows us to explore questions we could never ethically answer otherwise. Recording brain activity outside the skull is a delicate task. First, you'd want to avoid damaging the brain when you're taking it out, but then you'd also want to be quick about it, because without a constant supply of blood, brain cells will start to die. That's why immediately after extraction, we put the brain in an ice-cold solution that nourishes it and keeps it alive. We call this solution artificial cerebrospinal fluid. It is basically a lab-made saltwater solution that is very similar to the natural fluids that surround our brain inside the head. When the brain is inside the artificial cerebrospinal fluid, we can cut it into smaller pieces, isolate a specific area of it, or even a single cell, and record its activity. The artificial cerebrospinal fluid also allows us to expose the brain to a variety of substances and assess how the brain reacts to them. In our case, the substances of interest would be female reproductive hormones, estrogen, and progesterone. So, in a nutshell, we add these hormones to the artificial cerebrospinal fluid while feeding it to the brain, and we record the brain activity at the same time to assess how it changes. So far, in our experiments, we found that progesterone increases the amplitude of the electricity produced in the prefrontal cortex. To be more specific, it seems to be making brain cells in this area more responsive to signals from one another, almost like turning up the volume on their conversations. Now, this might seem like a small detail, but it could be a piece of a much bigger puzzle. What we're seeing here might be a potential mechanism by which hormones shape our thoughts, decisions, and desires. We already know that fluctuations in female reproductive hormones are linked to changes in cognition and emotion. Many women report a shift in focus, memory, and mood across different phases of their menstrual cycle. Hormonal fluctuations are also associated with premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. During pregnancy, some women might experience something that's often called baby brain, or a period of heightened emotional sensitivity. And after menopause, declining levels of estrogen and progesterone might leave some individuals more susceptible to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease. These are not just anecdotes. They are real biological changes happening across the brain, and we are only beginning to understand how or why they happen. By studying how hormones such as estrogen and progesterone alter brain activity at the most basic level, we're hoping to uncover how biology shapes experience. This line of research is still in its early days, but one day it might help us better understand or even treat hormone-related disorders of cognition and emotion. So, next time you feel like a stranger to yourself, remember, it might just be your hormones having a quiet chat with your brain. Thank you.